Listen carefully. If you want 2026 to be different, you must become different. Not louder. Not angrier. Stronger inside. Life will not slow down for you. Problems will not ask permission. People will not always be fair. Stoicism teaches one powerful truth. You cannot control the world, but you can control yourself. And when you control yourself, nothing can truly break you. Here are 7 life lessons to reinvent who you are and become unbreakable. Control your thoughts, not the world. This is the first lesson because everything else depends on it. Most people waste their entire lives trying to manage events, people, and outcomes that were never in their control. They argue with reality, resist change, and feel angry when life does not follow their plans. This inner conflict becomes the source of constant stress. Stoic thinking begins when you clearly see one truth. The world will do what it does, that your mind decides how you experience it. Your thoughts are the filter through which life passes. 2 people can face the same problem, yet one feels broken while the other feels strengthened. The difference is not the event, but the interpretation. When you learn to guide your thoughts, you stop giving power to things outside you. You no longer react automatically. You respond deliberately. This shift alone can change how you experience pain, failure, and uncertainty. Trying to control the world makes you anxious because the world is unpredictable. Weather changes, people change, plans fail, expectations collapse. When your peace depends on these things, your peace is fragile. Stoicism teaches that peace must be internal. You anchor yourself in what cannot be taken away, your judgment, your values, your choices. Once you understand this, you stop feeling like life is attacking you and start seeing it as something you are moving through. Thought control does not mean lying to yourself or pretending problems do not exist. It means seeing things clearly, without exaggeration or emotional distortion. When something bad happens, the mind often adds unnecessary suffering by saying, "This is unbearable," or "This ruined everything," or "I cannot survive this." These thoughts are not facts, they are habits, and habits can be changed. You begin by slowing down your reactions. When something triggers anger, fear, or frustration, pause, observe the thought instead of obeying it. Ask yourself whether this thought helps you act wisely or simply drains your energy. Over time, you learn to replace impulsive thoughts with calm ones, not optimistic fantasies, but grounded, rational thinking that keeps you steady. Controlling your thoughts also means letting go of the need for things to be a certain way. Expectations are often silent demands placed on reality. When reality refuses to cooperate, disappointment appears. Stoic thinking removes these demands. You prepare for difficulty instead of being shocked by it. You accept uncertainty instead of fighting it. This does not make you passive. It makes you adaptable. When you stop trying to control the world, you gain clarity. You see where your effort truly belongs. You focus on your actions, your discipline, your integrity. You stop blaming others for how you feel. This responsibility is empowering. It gives you back your strength. Nothing external needs to change for you to improve internally. A controlled mind does not mean an emotionless mind. It means emotions no longer drive behavior blindly. You still feel anger, sadness, and fear, but they do not command you. You choose how to act despite them. This is real freedom. A person who can govern their thoughts cannot be easily manipulated, offended, or defeated. As you practice this daily, challenges lose their sharp edges. Insults feel lighter. Delays feel manageable. Loss feels painful but not destructive. You become harder to disturb, not because life becomes easier, but because your inner foundation becomes stronger. You stop chasing control where it never existed, and start mastering the only place where it truly does. Discipline your mind daily. This is not a suggestion. It is a necessity for anyone who wants to remain strong in an unstable world. The mind left untrained becomes reactive, emotional, and easily overwhelmed. It chases comfort, avoids effort, and looks for excuses. A disciplined mind, on the other hand, stays steady under pressure and clear in moments of uncertainty. It does not depend on motivation, because motivation comes and goes. Discipline stays. Daily mental discipline begins with awareness. You must notice how often your thoughts drift toward fear, anger, regret, or distraction. Most people believe their thoughts are uncontrollable, but this belief itself is a habit. The mind repeats what it practices. If you practice complaining, the mind becomes skilled at complaining. If you practice focus, the mind becomes focused. What you allow daily becomes who you are. Training the mind does not require complicated rituals. It requires consistency. Start by setting small rules for yourself and honoring them. Wake up when you decide to wake up. Finish tasks even when you feel resistance. Limit unnecessary distractions. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen self-respect. Each time you break one, you weaken it. Discipline is built in these small, invisible moments. A disciplined mind does not argue with itself all day. Indecision drains energy. When you decide what matters and act on it without endless debate, mental noise fades. You stop asking how you feel about doing something, and start asking whether it needs to be done. This shift removes emotional dependency from action. You act because it is right, not because it is easy. Mental discipline also means controlling what you consume. The mind absorbs everything it is exposed to. Constant negativity, useless entertainment, and endless comparison poison clarity. When you guard what enters your mind, you protect your peace. Choose content, conversations, and environments that strengthen you instead of weakening you. This is not avoidance of reality, but respect for your mental space. Silence is another form of discipline. A noisy mind seeks constant stimulation to escape itself. A disciplined mind can sit quietly without discomfort. In silence, you learn to observe your thoughts instead of becoming them. This creates distance between impulse and action. In that space, wisdom grows. You become less reactive and more intentional. Training the mind daily also prepares you for hardship. When difficulty arrives, the undisciplined mind panics and complains. The disciplined mind adapts. It asks what can be done, not what should have been different. This resilience is built long before problems appear. You do not rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your training. Mental discipline requires honesty. You must see your weaknesses without excuses and your strengths without pride. This balance keeps you grounded. You stop lying to yourself about effort and progress. You take responsibility without self-hatred. This honest self-awareness is a powerful form of control. Over time, daily discipline reshapes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone ruled by moods and start seeing yourself as someone guided by principle. You trust yourself more because you know you will act when needed. This trust creates inner calm. When the mind is disciplined, it no longer feels like a battlefield. It becomes a tool you can rely on, sharp, steady, and ready. Choose discomfort to grow stronger. This idea goes against everything the modern world encourages. Comfort is advertised as success, ease is sold as happiness, and avoidance of pain is treated as wisdom. But comfort weakens the mind and softens the will. When you constantly choose what feels good in the moment, you lose the ability to endure what is necessary. Strength is not built in ease. It is built in resistance. Discomfort is not the enemy, it is a teacher. Every time you face something difficult and stay present, you train your mind to remain steady under pressure. Cold mornings, hard conversations, disciplined routines, and physical effort all serve the same purpose. They remind you that you can endure more than you think. When you voluntarily step into discomfort, fear begins to lose its power. Avoiding discomfort trains the mind to panic at the first sign of difficulty. Small challenges start to feel overwhelming. Delays feel unbearable. Effort feels exhausting. But when you choose discomfort regularly, your tolerance expands. What once felt heavy becomes manageable. What once felt impossible becomes normal. This is how resilience is built, not through motivation, but through repeated exposure to challenge. Choosing discomfort does not mean seeking suffering for its own sake. It means doing what is necessary even when it feels uncomfortable. It means waking up when you want to stay in bed. It means staying focused when distraction is tempting. It means holding discipline when excuses appear. These moments are quiet, unnoticed by others, but they shape your character deeply. Discomfort also strengthens self-control. When you deny immediate pleasure for long-term growth, you teach your mind that it does not rule you. Hunger, fatigue, boredom, and resistance become signals, not commands. You learn that feelings rise and fall, but your actions remain deliberate. This separation between feeling and action is the foundation of inner freedom. Many people fear discomfort because they believe it will break them. The truth is the opposite. Avoidance breaks you slowly. It creates weakness hidden beneath comfort. Discomfort reveals your limits, and then expands them. Each time you endure and survive, confidence grows. Not loud confidence, but quiet certainty in your ability to handle life. Physical discomfort is often the easiest place to begin. The body and mind are deeply connected. When you push your body with discipline, the mind follows. Simple practices like consistent exercise, controlled breathing, and intentional exposure to effort train mental toughness. Over time, this strength carries into emotional and mental challenges. Emotional discomfort is just as important. Speaking the truth, setting boundaries, accepting criticism, and letting go of attachment all require courage. These moments test your ego. When you avoid them, problems grow quietly. When you face them, clarity appears. Choosing emotional discomfort builds integrity and self-respect. Discomfort also removes illusion. When things are hard, you see yourself clearly. Excuses fade. Weak habits become visible. This honesty is uncomfortable, but necessary. Growth cannot happen without self-awareness. By facing discomfort, you face yourself without filters. As you practice this daily, you begin to trust yourself. You know that when life becomes difficult, you will not collapse or run. You have already trained for resistance. Discomfort becomes familiar, not frightening. It becomes a signal that growth is happening, that strength is being built, and that you are moving closer to the unbreakable version of yourself. Act with character, not for approval. Many people unknowingly build their lives around the reactions of others. They measure their worth by praise, attention, and acceptance. When approval is present, they feel confident. When it disappears, they feel lost. This creates a fragile identity that rises and falls with external opinion. Stoic thinking teaches that living this way hands your peace to people who may not understand you, respect you, or even care about your growth. Character is what remains when no one is watching. It is the quiet agreement you make with yourself about how you will act, regardless of reward or recognition. When your actions are guided by character, you no longer need permission to do what is right. You do not adjust your values to fit the room. You remain consistent, steady, and grounded. Seeking approval creates fear. You hesitate to speak honestly because you fear rejection. You avoid difficult decisions because you fear judgment. Over time, this fear shapes your behavior. You become reactive instead of deliberate. Acting with character removes this fear. When you already know who you are and what you stand for, opinions lose their grip. Criticism may still appear, but it does not control you. Approval is unpredictable. People change their minds. Crowds turn quickly. What is celebrated today may be criticized tomorrow. Building your identity on something so unstable leads to anxiety. Character, however, is stable. It does not depend on trends, moods, or applause. It is built slowly through consistent choices aligned with your values. Acting with character often feels uncomfortable at first. You may stand alone. You may be misunderstood. You may lose short-term approval, but in exchange, you gain long-term self-respect. This self-respect becomes an internal anchor. You trust yourself more because you know your actions are not driven by fear or vanity. A person who acts for approval becomes easy to manipulate. Praise becomes a leash. Criticism becomes a weapon. But a person guided by character cannot be controlled so easily. They listen without obedience and consider without surrendering. This independence is a form of strength that cannot be taken away. Living by character also simplifies decisions. When faced with a choice, you do not ask what will impress others. You ask what aligns with your principles. This clarity reduces mental conflict. You waste less energy justifying yourself. You act, accept the outcome, and move forward. Character is tested in small moments, not dramatic ones. Returning what is not yours. Speaking honestly when lying would be easier. Remaining calm when provoked. These moments do not bring applause, but they shape who you become. Over time, these small acts build a reputation within yourself. You begin to see yourself as reliable, disciplined, and grounded. Approval fades quickly, but character compounds. The more you act with integrity, the stronger your inner foundation becomes. You no longer chase validation because you already possess something more valuable. You carry quiet confidence that does not need to be announced. When you stop living for approval, you stop performing. You stop pretending. You stop shaping yourself to fit expectations. You act from principle, accept solitude when necessary, and stand firm under pressure. This way of living may not make you popular, but it will make you unshakable. That accept hardship as training, not punishment. Most people see difficulty as something unfair, something that should not be happening to them. This belief creates bitterness and resistance. The mind asks why life is so harsh, why things never go smoothly, why suffering appears without warning. Stoic thinking shifts this perspective completely. Hardship is not a personal attack. It is a natural part of being alive, and more importantly, it is a tool for growth. When you view hardship as punishment, you feel powerless. You complain, compare, and wait for things to improve before taking action. This mindset keeps you stuck. When you view hardship as training, your posture changes. You stand straighter. You become alert. You look for what must be learned instead of what must be avoided. This shift turns pain into progress. Training is never comfortable. Muscles grow through resistance. Skill develops through repetition and failure. The same is true for the mind and character. Hardship exposes weaknesses that comfort hides. It reveals impatience, fear, attachment, and pride. Without pressure, these weaknesses remain invisible. Difficulty brings them to the surface so they can be addressed. Accepting hardship does not mean enjoying it. It means understanding its purpose. You stop asking for life to be easy and start preparing yourself to be strong. This preparation builds resilience. Each challenge you endure becomes evidence that you can handle more than you once believed. Confidence grows quietly, not from success alone, but from survival. Hardship also teaches humility. It reminds you that control is limited and plans can fail. This awareness softens the ego. You stop assuming that things should always go your way. Instead of feeling entitled to comfort, you feel grateful for stability when it appears. This grounded perspective keeps you balanced in both success and struggle. When difficulties arise, the undisciplined mind reacts with panic or blame. It looks for someone or something to fault. The trained mind asks practical questions. What is within my control right now? What action is required? What lesson is being offered? This response does not remove pain, but it prevents suffering from multiplying. Accepting hardship as training also reduces fear of the future. When you stop seeing difficulty as something that will destroy you, uncertainty becomes less threatening. You trust your ability to adapt. You know that even if things go wrong, you will learn, adjust, and continue. This trust creates calm even in unstable conditions. Hardship strengthens values. When life is easy, principles are untested. When pressure arrives, values are revealed. Honesty, patience, courage, and discipline only prove their worth when challenged. Each difficult moment becomes an opportunity to act in alignment with who you want to be. Training requires repetition. One challenge alone does not make you strong. It is the pattern of facing difficulty without surrender that builds endurance. Over time, you stop resisting reality. You stop wishing for different circumstances. You work with what exists. This acceptance frees energy that was once wasted on frustration. When you see hardship as training, you no longer feel singled out by life. You realize that struggle is shared by all. This understanding builds compassion without weakness. You become firm but not bitter, strong but not arrogant. Pain still exists, but it no longer defines you. Through this lens, hardship becomes meaningful. It shapes your character, sharpens your mind, and deepens your strength. Instead of breaking you, it prepares you. Instead of punishing you, it trains you for the life you are meant to handle. Use time with purpose. Time is the most limited resource you possess, yet it is the one most easily wasted. Money can be earned again. Opportunities can return. Time only moves in one direction. Every hour that passes is gone forever. Stoic thinking treats time as sacred, not because it is scarce alone, but because how you use it determines who you become. Many people live as if time is endless. They delay important actions, postpone difficult conversations, and distract themselves with trivial pleasures. Days blur together, and years pass without intention. This unconscious use of time creates regret. Not regret for what was done, but for what was never attempted. Living with purpose begins when you realize that each day is a complete life in itself. Using time with purpose does not mean filling every moment with activity. It means choosing how your attention is spent. Attention shapes thought. Thought shapes action. Action shapes identity. When attention is scattered, life feels shallow and rushed. When attention is focused, even simple actions carry weight and meaning. Purposeful use of time starts with clarity. You must decide what truly matters to you. Without this decision, time will be claimed by distractions and demands from others. When priorities are unclear, urgency takes over. You become busy but not effective. Stoic discipline teaches you to slow down internally so you can move forward deliberately. Every action carries an opportunity cost. Saying yes to one thing means saying no to another. When you say yes to meaningless entertainment, you say no to growth. When you say yes to avoidance, you say no to progress. Purposeful living requires courage to decline what does not serve your values, even when it is easy or socially accepted. Time used with purpose is not about productivity alone. Rest, reflection, and stillness are also intentional choices. Rest renews strength. Reflection builds wisdom. Stillness brings clarity. The difference is that these are chosen deliberately, not as escapes from responsibility. When rest becomes avoidance, it drains you. When it becomes recovery, it strengthens you. Stoic thinking reminds you that death is not a threat, but a guide. Awareness of life's finite nature sharpens focus. When you remember that your time is limited, trivial worries lose importance. Petty conflicts fade. You stop postponing what matters. You speak honestly. You act courageously. You stop living as if tomorrow is guaranteed. Using time with purpose also means aligning daily actions with long-term values. Small habits repeated daily shape your future more than occasional bursts of effort. What you read, what you practice, how you speak, and where you place your attention slowly become your character. Time does not judge. It simply records what you do with it. Purposeful time use builds inner peace. When you know your actions align with your values, there is less inner conflict. You stop feeling rushed, even when busy. You stop feeling empty, even when alone. This calm does not come from external success but from internal alignment. When you waste time, you often feel restless and dissatisfied without knowing why. When you use time well, you feel grounded, even if life remains difficult. Purpose does not remove struggle, but it gives struggle meaning. To use time with purpose is to live consciously. It is to recognize that each moment is a choice, each choice a direction, and each direction a shaping force. When you respect time, you respect your own life, and in that respect strength and clarity naturally grow. Master emotions before they master you. Emotions are natural, but when left unchecked, they become rulers instead of signals. Many people believe they are controlled by what they feel, as if anger, fear, or sadness appear with authority. Stoic thinking teaches that emotions arise, but obedience is optional. The moment you learn this, you begin to reclaim control over your inner life. Emotions are reactions, not commands. They appear based on perception, not reality itself. A situation happens, the mind interprets it, and emotion follows. This means emotions are not fixed truths. They are responses shaped by thought. When you change how you interpret events, the emotional response also changes. This understanding removes the mystery and power emotions often hold. When emotions lead behavior, regret usually follows. Words spoken in anger cannot be taken back. Decisions made in fear limit growth. Actions driven by desire often ignore consequences. Mastery does not mean suppressing emotions or pretending they do not exist. It means observing them without immediately acting on them. The first step toward emotional mastery is pause. Between stimulus and response, there is a brief space. In that space, choice exists. Most people skip this moment. They react instantly, believing speed is strength. True strength is restraint. A calm response often carries more power than an emotional one. Anger, when uncontrolled, narrows vision. It turns small issues into battles and damages relationships. Fear, when unexamined, exaggerates threats and paralyzes action. Desire, when unrestrained, creates attachment and disappointment. These emotions are not enemies, but they must be guided. When guided, they inform without controlling. Practicing emotional mastery requires daily awareness. Notice emotional patterns without judgment. Identify triggers. Observe how quickly the mind creates stories around events. With practice, you begin to see emotions as temporary states rather than permanent identities. You stop saying, "I'm angry," and start saying, "Anger is present." This shift creates distance and control. Breathing becomes a powerful tool. Slow, deliberate breathing calms the nervous system and clears mental fog. It creates physical stillness that supports mental clarity. When the body calms, the mind follows. This simple practice can prevent emotional escalation before it takes hold. Emotional mastery also involves choosing values over impulses. When emotions push you toward reaction, values pull you toward wisdom. Ask what response aligns with patience, integrity, or discipline. This question redirects behavior from impulse to principle. Over time, mastering emotions builds inner stability. External events lose their ability to disturb you deeply. You still feel emotions, but they pass through you without leaving destruction. This stability creates reliability. Others begin to trust your presence because you do not bring chaos into difficult moments. Mastery does not mean perfection. Emotions will still arise unexpectedly. Progress is measured by how quickly you regain control, not by never losing it. Each moment of restraint strengthens the next. When emotions no longer rule you, clarity replaces confusion. You see situations as they are, not as emotion paints them. Decisions improve. Relationships stabilize. Inner conflict decreases. You become less reactive and more deliberate. In this state, you are not cold or detached, but grounded and composed. Emotional mastery becomes the foundation of strength, allowing you to move through life with balance, awareness, and control. Build inner strength to become unbreakable. True strength is not measured by wealth, status, or outward success. These things can be taken away. The world is unpredictable, and relying on it for security is a recipe for weakness. Inner strength comes from cultivating qualities that cannot be stolen: patience, discipline, courage, and self-mastery. This is the foundation of resilience, the quality that allows a person to endure storms without collapsing. Inner strength begins with self-awareness. You must honestly assess your weaknesses and tendencies without excuse or denial. Most people hide from this truth, distracted by comfort or vanity. Avoidance may feel safe, but it builds fragility. When you confront your limitations and take responsibility for them, you lay the first stone of true strength. Recognizing that fear, laziness, attachment, and ego exist within you is not defeat, it is preparation. Only by seeing what threatens your stability can you begin to strengthen it. Discipline is a cornerstone of inner strength. Consistent action, even in small things, shapes character over time. Waking early, completing tasks without complaint, controlling impulses, and resisting shortcuts may seem trivial, but they train the mind and body to obey principle rather than desire. Each act of discipline reinforces the belief that you are capable of self-control, and self-control is the basis of resilience. Patience is another essential aspect. Life often tests you with delay, frustration, and repeated obstacles. A weak mind reacts with anger, anxiety, or despair. A strong mind endures with composure. Patience allows you to observe challenges calmly, make measured decisions, and conserve energy. The person who can wait without agitation gains advantage over those who act impulsively or emotionally. Courage is built not only in dramatic moments, but in daily choices. Every time you act according to your values despite fear, your courage grows. Speaking the truth, taking responsibility, confronting discomfort, and standing firm under pressure are all exercises in bravery. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of action in spite of it. This habit strengthens resilience, preparing you to face larger trials when they arrive. Self-mastery unites all these qualities. Mastery over desires, thoughts, and emotions frees you from being controlled by circumstance. Most people surrender to habit, pleasure, or impulse. Inner strength is created when you consistently act according to principle rather than reaction. This creates independence, calm, and confidence. You no longer rely on external validation or fortune for stability. Building inner strength also involves reflection and learning. Strength without wisdom is rigid and brittle. Examine your actions, analyze mistakes, and refine your responses. Every setback becomes a lesson, every difficulty a tool for growth. Over time, repeated reflection transforms experience into unshakable knowledge, reinforcing resilience. Physical and mental challenges both contribute. The body and mind are interconnected. Physical effort, exercise, and controlled discomfort reinforce discipline, endurance, and confidence. Mental challenges, resisting impulsive thoughts, practicing focus, and confronting fear, develop resilience of character. The combination creates a holistic strength that is deeply rooted. Finally, inner strength is cultivated over time through consistent practice and conscious choice. It is invisible to the world, but unmistakable to yourself. The unbreakable person is not necessarily the one with the loudest presence or greatest influence, but the one who can stand firm, act wisely, and remain composed no matter what the world throws. Strength is not built overnight. It is forged in daily commitment, intentional action, and relentless self-improvement. Once inner strength is established, challenges no longer intimidate. Pain no longer paralyzes. Criticism no longer shakes confidence. Loss no longer destroys. You become like a tree with deep roots. Storms may bend you, but they cannot uproot you. You become unbreakable,